How you guys doing tonight? I want to thank you guys all here for joining. It is a Wednesday night, and boy, has it been a long one for me. Been up since 4, but as always, there's really no time to be resting. We got a lot going on here. So I just wanted to first, like I said, thank you guys for joining here tonight. We're carrying on our conversation with candidates that are interested in being on, that want to talk to the people. Hopefully, we want to have like an hour-long conversation, talk to folks, see what they're about, get their backgrounds, and kind of get their motivations, things that they're looking for. Tonight, though, we're going to bring on a guest that we had on before, and I give the man credit. He really tried to make that interview work, and I'm sure he'll talk about it here. Just we have to take a look to see if he's got any corn in the background. So let's bring him on right now, Mr. Adam Fischer. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Ed. How are you?
I could use like a 3 day nap. I could use a 3 day nap, but I suppose we can get one after this election here, come November.
Well, definitely after I'm governor, you'll be able to rest more easy as I am the governor candidate of justice. We'll bring law and order back to these streets.
Well, and that's definitely a topic we want to get into tonight because obviously a lot of people have been chiming in on this. Milwaukee is uh, it's out of control to say the least. It's not that it's necessarily ever been good crime wise, but clearly there are some issues there that need to be dealt with. And of course, wherever Milwaukee goes, that tends to spread elsewhere. But you're running for governor. And I know we had the opportunity. We tried to do an interview about, what, 2, 3 months ago. And I got to give you credit. And I'm looking in your background, looking to see like there's cans of corn or corn stalks or something. But I got to give Adam credit because he was at an event and then he was trying to make things work. And if you're in an area got that's a lot of people and they got cell phones, it's really hard to maintain a video signal. So he goes out to the truck and he's in a cornfield and we're cutting in and out. And I really do appreciate the effort you made to try to make that conversation work.
Well, I'm a hard worker, Ed. I'll do what it takes to get it done. I always tell people in my speeches, if I had a bunch of farmers like myself, we don't know the word can't. We know the word we got to get her done.
Oh, isn't that truth? Because if you don't get it done, then nobody else will do it. That's kind of really what it boils down to. Um, but we've had a chance to meet, obviously, both online and in the real world. We had a chance to actually meet in person up in Marshfield a couple of weeks ago. There was a great event that was being sponsored there by the Freedom Fighters of Central Wisconsin, the Tea Party of Central Wisconsin. A lot of candidates, a lot of people giving their stump speech, talking about why they're the best person. So I want to hand it over to you to kick this off. I want, if you would be so kind, tell us who you are. Obviously, you've been running for governor now for what, 6, 7 months now?
We're on the 6 month, 6 month
Six.
anniversary here.
Wow. Goes by real fast, doesn't it?
Yeah, time flies. As you can see in the background, I've been on the road, so I came home to Christmas. I forgot I still have my Christmas tree up and all my decorations.
Stay festive. There's nothing wrong with that. But tell us about yourself. What was it that sparked you to want to jump into the governor's race? Just your background, what you're about. I'm gonna hand the mic over to you.
So, those of you out there that don't know who I am, I'm not a politician. I'm a former police officer. I'm a business owner of 20 years, and I'm just one pissed off American like the rest of y'all out there. What happened for me was I got COVID back in July for 20 days, and it was horrible. I had 2 hospital trips, 103-degree fever, and I went through 60 bottles of Pedialyte. Well, during that time, my justice blood started boiling in my veins about the people that weren't being held accountable for weaponizing a virus to hurt our population and hurt our people. So I took it as a personal attack against my life, and I started praying to God and asked him what he wanted me to do about it. And God told me 30 days later, go run for governor and help fix this place. So I got off my keister and said, you know what? I'm going to get out there and I'm going to run for governor.
So, looking at running for Governor, that's an interesting, motivation. Taking a look at the whole COVID crisis and everything else that had happened, that certainly can be a motivation. As governor in Wisconsin, what would be, I guess, how would you have dealt with things differently? What would be the responses that you would have implemented different than what, say, Tony Evers did and other individuals within the legislative body, whether they spoke up, not spoke up? How would you have built those relationships to be effective and protective of the people of Wisconsin?
Well, number one, the handcuffs would come off law enforcement and military. What happened in Kenosha would never happen on my watch because I would have sent the National Guard down there. I mean, business owners were putting boards up on their businesses a week in advance. We had a week's notice that we were going to have a riot or a really bad thing happen down in Kenosha. And instead of having business owners close up their businesses, wreck their economy that they've slaved hard for as good working citizens of Wisconsin, I would have sent all the law enforcement that I had and the National Guard down there, and there would have been a riot on my watch. And Kyle Rittenhouse would not have had done self-defense and defend himself, and at the end, kill two guys and wound another guy. That would have never happened. We wouldn't have had any of that chaos on my watch. That's for one. For two, we wouldn't have any of these mask mandates or the shots that we don't know anything about. I'm not a guinea pig, but I'm not going to, fault anybody for making their own medical choices. My medical choice is I'm not getting the vaccine. And I think that medical freedom and all our other freedoms are very important, and I would not take those away from people. Thirdly, I would never introduce hate or AKA CRT in our school systems. That would not happen on my watch. The other thing is, for sex education, we wouldn't have our 8th graders watching porn. This stuff would not happen on my watch. We would go back to law and order. We'd clean up our streets. We'd go back to be able to work hard and then play hard with our families and not have to worry about going to the park or worrying about what gender goes to what bathroom. There's a male and female bathroom, and there's not going to be an adult male going to a bathroom with a little girl in the stall on my watch.
Yeah, there was something you brought up that I think that was really important, and it's something that we see a lot of candidates talking about right now, and that's the topic of law and order. Anybody who's been around the Metro Milwaukee area for any amount of time will be it would be very clear to tell you that Milwaukee has been a city that has been in decline for quite some time. Quite honestly, a lot of what's going on in Milwaukee has been, year after year. It's just been, it's almost like, for those of you guys that are familiar with Milwaukee, you used to be able to walk on Lincoln Avenue and have no fear of anything bad happening to you. And then it seems over the last 10 years or so, that boundary just seems to have gotten further and further south and continues to go further and further north. It's just one of those things where you can't really go to a park anymore. I remember I used to be able to walk through parks walking to work. Obviously, things have gotten worse over the years. As governor, how do you really maintain that when you know that there is local control, and it really seems that the people that are running Milwaukee don't really care?
Well, we need to get rid of the people that don't really care, and we need to fill those slots with AGs, prosecutors, judges, police officers that can do their jobs. All the law enforcement that I talk to right now, they're scared to do their jobs. They're worried about what are the repercussions for them actually doing their jobs. On my watch as governor, they won't have to look over their shoulder because I am the law and order candidate. I'm the only governor candidate with law enforcement experience that's running. I understand what it's like to be out there on the streets, and I will back up law enforcement. We have a due process system where if you get arrested, go without resisting. If you disagree with the officer, go through the system, get an attorney. There's judges and jurors and a whole slew of people that will find that you're innocent if you're truly innocent. But if you run and you flee from officers, they have no other alternative but to use force to control you because you're out of control. So my message is let due process handle it. So if a police officer tells you to stop, lay down on the ground, put your hands behind your back, go through the process of being arrested, go to jail, and let the legal system handle it.
There's this argument, and it's been one that's probably been around since the dawn of time. How exactly do we deal with criminals? I mean, obviously, for students of history, you guys may be familiar with Draco's column, and that's where we get the term draconian laws. And Draco's column was just basically it was all these laws that were written on this gigantic column, and pretty much everything was punishable by death. Clearly, that doesn't work. Other countries, there's been, execution, chop off an arm, there's fines, there's you name it. Here in America, we've tried everything from, restorative justice, punitive, something in between, rehabilitative. How exactly do we try to solve an age old problem that doesn't seem like there's really an answer for? Because in Milwaukee and even many other places around the state, you basically have a revolving door in the criminal justice system, whether it's failure to prosecute or just lenient on crime judges.
Well, the problem is exactly what you said. There's a lot of people that don't care, right? And we need to get people in there that do care, that aren't going to sweep things under the carpet. I hear all the time, who cares about Milwaukee? Who cares about Dane County? Who cares about Kenosha? Who cares about Racine? You know what? I care because there's God's children in every city throughout the world. And I'm not going to sweep anybody under the rug. I want to be a change and a good change for people where they can breathe easy. And I want to just touch on prison reform for a minute because I think our prison systems are broken right now. And when I say that, let's say somebody does a non-violent crime right now,
Hmm.
and let's say that they happen to get 10 years in prison. This is one of my policies that I'm working on with my team. And we don't have it fully developed, but we're about 90% there. Um, what I like to do is not make that criminal into a career criminal and give them 10 years in prison. I like to give them an option, kind of like the HUD program that we had,
Hmm.
where you could serve 1 year and you're going to go to work. You're going to pay for yourself to be in jail. You're going to be in a real jail. You're going to work during the day. You're going to come back to an 8x8 with no TV, and you're going to serve real time, and you're going to hate it. So you're not going to want to come back. But what that's going to do is it's not going to turn you into a career inmate because I think 10 years is too long in prison. Prison's supposed to be for reform. So I believe if they're only in there for 12 months and they're working during the day, they're getting reformed because they're being taught skills and they're not giving up 10 years of their life. When they come out, they have no idea what to do or how. I mean, we're paying for them as taxpayers when they come out in 10 years
Right.
because they're not getting a job.
Well, I think that leads to, what you're referring to is the process of prisonization. An individual might go to jail for a year or two, and they might end up in spending more time because they commit other crimes while in jail, because that's the only way they can really survive. And then, of course, that individual comes out as a hardened criminal, and then, of course, there's a stigma attached to that. If you get arrested for any number of charges, let's say it is a felony, just for the sake of this discussion, that's what two of the biggest impediments to hiring people in general has always been failure of a drug test, and then of course your background check. The background check issue is an interesting topic because I know people have mentioned that we need to do something to destigmatize those that have paid their debt to society. If an individual has served 5 years and that was their sentence, do we punish them the rest of their life? And I think that's a tough question because are we talking violent crime, nonviolent crime? How exactly does that work there? Um, but that being said, let's go back to, law enforcement again. because obviously we have a lot of people, even here in the state of Wisconsin, that are very big on this whole defund the police movement. And it's an really kind of an interesting evolution of where we have gone from community oriented policing, broken windows theory, and just having cops be a part of the community. How do you how do you protect people that don't really want you there?
Well, we see what happens like in Chicago and areas like that when they do end up pushing the police out. They have the highest crime rates there. But then again, guns aren't allowed there, right? So why should they be the murder capital of the world? So we see that the system's broken. There's a lack of common sense that goes on. So I think that um, people can see what's going on with the lack of police. What happened in Kenosha when we took all the police out of there? They burned the city down, and then they screamed that they wanted police. So I think the message has to be, do you want to live next door to criminals? Do you want to live next door to drug dealers? Or do you want to have a nice neighborhood where you could go out there and have your kids play or sit on the front porch and sip lemonade or, go in the backyard and go in the pool?
Right.
People have to ask themselves that question. Do you want gunshots or do you want to hear kids playing?
And that's an interesting way of looking at that because when I used to live in Milwaukee, we were living in the West Dallas area. And every now and again, you hear gunshots. And you're like, oh, all right, who's going to be on the 10 o'clock news tonight? Not the way I wanted to raise my kids. So we moved out to the middle of nowhere. And I kind of like it when I hear guns popping off over here because generally speaking, that means somebody got a new toy. Somebody's sighting in a weapon. Somebody's going hunting. Totally different world. Um, Something else that I was thinking about too here as it relates to what we're doing here in Wisconsin and this primary race that we're dealing with and going into the general election, the economy is a big issue. It and a number of polls, you'll see there's a number of issues that are up there: CRT, medical freedom. The list can go on for a bit, but the number one issue amongst many voters and across all socioeconomic backgrounds is the economy. We're dealing with inflation that's just ridiculous. They say that it was 7%, but I actually believe that it to be higher. And this was for 2021. And how exactly do we protect ourselves here in the state of Wisconsin to guard against something like that? Because I mean, all one needs to do is go to the grocery store, go to the gas station. You see inflation; it's happening right before our eyes.
I think there's several things that have to happen. One, we got to look at um, excessive spending and wasteful spending. Like one of the things I hang my hat on is, do you know what the hop is down in Milwaukee?
Oh, that debacle! Yeah, the trolley. I'm sorry, that everybody wanted.
Right. And I know that we got a grant for it, but they left out the part about the maintenance that we have to pay on it. It comes out of the taxpayers' pockets, and I believe it's around about $1 million a year. So what I like to do as governor is, call up Chicago or New York and say, "Hey, I got a train for sale." And I would like to remove that $1 million worth of maintenance, and I like to put that back into education, healthcare, law enforcement, taxes, fixing the roads, something that's useful
Right.
because you know that trolley only goes about 8 blocks, and you got to pay for it, and you got to pay for parking. So if you can't walk 8 blocks, I don't know what to say to you.
Right. Well, that trolley was just a hot mess from the get go because, yeah, you got the grants and everything, but like you said, there's an unfunded mandate in order to maintain it. And is that something that would be cool if you had a world class city? Yes. Unfortunately, Milwaukee kind of has fallen to the wayside. It's the glory of Milwaukee is not where it used to be. I remember you would be. What was that movie theater? It's not the Majestic. It was right there on Wisconsin Avenue. I can't remember. All I remember is my parents taking me to go see some slasher flicks back in the day. Night of the Living Dead. That's where I first saw that. George Romero. But the Grand Avenue Mall is falling apart. Hardly any stores there. Obviously, you have issues with crime and everything around that area, and of course, there's a lot of good things that downtown still. I mean, you got Old World Third Street. You have a lot of the festivals that happen downtown, but even those, it wasn't. I think it was this. Was it this past summer? Right on Third Street. I mean, you had a bunch of shootings down there. And again, I don't want to beat on a dead horse and just talk about crime in Milwaukee, but that seems to be the highlight there. The medical examiner's office already talked about how Milwaukee right now is on pace for 300 plus homicides this year. That's over what happened in 2022 or 21, excuse me. So I think these are really important issues. And one of the things that I hear, especially within urban areas, and we can classify Milwaukee, Oshkosh, Fond du Lac, Madison. A lot of people will say, well, we need jobs brought back into the state, into the city, into these areas. How do we bring back those jobs? How do we bring back any jobs, any economy? And how do we prevent the brain drain that Wisconsin is notorious for having? People get educated, they leave because they want to go to greener pastures. How do we keep that here?
You know, you bring up an interesting point with that because my grandmother always used to say that if you were hungry enough, you go to work, and if you were getting in trouble, you didn't work hard enough. So I believe in that. And that being said, I think what we need to do is we need to bring back skilled labor. We need more skilled labor out there, and less handouts. We need training. We need skilled labor. So what I'd like to do is another policy that we're talking about is to start, you know, like in your senior year when you get to go to school half the day and you get to work half the
Yeah.
day. I like to start that in ninth grade and give the kids a jump on learning what they want to be when they grow up. Because I don't know about you, but my senior year, with 3 months to go, they said, "Hey, Adam, what do you want to be when you grow up?" I have no idea. I didn't do anything yet.
Right.
So what I like to do is I like to work with business owners, and I'd like to do a rotating program with the students where they go to like a bakery, they go to an accountant's office, they go to manufacturing, they go to welding, and they rotate like on a weekly basis so that they get exposed to things. I mean, if you get a guy that, you know, loves welding and he's in a
Mhm.
welding shop, and you get another guy that doesn't like welding, but he likes to bake, and he knows he's going to a bakery next week. He knows he's only got a week to get through this welding stuff, and then he's doing something that he likes.
Right.
But you find out much sooner. Plus, what that does is it gives the students skills and it gives them credits for school, and then it gives the business owners the skilled labor that they need, like an apprenticeship program if you're working one of the trades.
Well, I know some of the technical colleges already have a program similar to that. My stepson actually was able to benefit, and he was taking welding classes in high school, which were able to translate into college credits. And I think that's an awesome program because, again, it gets somebody at a young age. In this case, he was a junior when he started, so he was a junior, senior, and he was essentially going to school part of the day, and the latter part of the day, he was taking welding classes, and that was, I believe, in conjunction with Fox Valley Technical College. So when we look at trades, things like plumbing, things like carpentry, bakers, culinary, individuals, things like that, that's definitely something that really we could focus on a lot more because if you think about the fact that a lot of people don't, not every college is not for everybody. That's the big thing. College really isn't for everybody, and do we want to really saddle everybody with that kind of debt? So I think that it's a program I certainly believe needs to be either expanded or talked more about. How would you propose something like that with the legislative body? Because it seems there's a bit of friction within the Republican Party. How do you propose this or any other idea?
Well, first off, you know, I'm not going to act like a grade schooler and sling mud at either side. I'm the governor for all people, and I'm here to work with you, whether you call yourself Republican, Democrat, Independent, Patriot, or whatever you want to call yourself. So, what I'm going to say to everybody is, look, we're all adults, and we're paid by Wisconsinites to do our jobs, and our job is to make production in the state of Wisconsin. So, everybody needs to get on board with that, and we're going to have respect and an open forum of discussion. We're not going to have this, oh, a Democrat had an idea where none of us are voting for it, or hey, a Republican had an idea, none of the Democrats are going to vote for it. No, if it's a good idea, we're going to look at it And I don't care who it comes from, because we don't work for our parties, we work for the people. So that's my number one solution to most of these problems, is people are in cliques like they're in grade school.
No, that's an interesting observation because the more looking behind the curtain kind of gives you a I don't want to call it an interesting or unique perspective, but it is fascinating because you're just like, wow, I can't believe that some of this stuff is a hot mess. Um, but that's why I was looking at, how do you build relationships with people that you might find to be establishment or fringe or just outright crazy? Um, because I think that's the tough part right there. A lot of people have their interests. A lot of people have their interests to their constituencies within, wherever voting block they come from, be it the assembly's position or a senate position or other elected officials, say, secretary of state, treasurer, lieutenant governor. So I find that there's a lot of folks saying, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Are you really? Because you do really have to have those relationships with a lot of people, because fortunately, unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, you can't necessarily rule by edict and executive order over and over again. Only Biden thinks that.
I, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's all about relationship building. That's why, anybody who's seen me out on the campaign trail, I don't sling mud at other competitors, because I don't look at them that way. I look at that we're all out here fighting for the same cause, which is doing what's right for the Wisconsinites, and we're letting the people choose who's the right person for that position. So I pray for my competitors, and I pray for other candidates that are fighting for other positions, and I pray for the people that are in office, even Tony Evers right now, because he's got another 10 months to take care of the state. So we definitely need God in his heart and in his brain to make a change over these next 10 months, because we really can't wait that long till I get in office.
Right.
So to sum it up, I think we all need to come together and stop fighting with each other.
When we look at, the right now, there's four candidates out here that are, there's actually five. I don't know if you've seen this, but apparently there's some like 15, 16-year-old kid who actually announced his candidacy like some time ago. Like, seriously, if you haven't seen it, go to Ballotpedia, check it out. I'm not going to knock the kid, but it's like, all right, man, you're doing something others aren't. But there's four people that are out there. Obviously, yourself, Jonathan Wickman, Kevin Nicholson just jumped into the race, Rebecca Clayfish. When I look at the four of you, for the most part, on issues, you guys are pretty much in line with everything. It's like I'm not going to see anybody who's like, well, I'm not pro life. No, everybody's pro life. No, I'm not pro cop. Everybody's pro cop. What's the biggest differentiator between yourself and other candidates? And I guess without, being negative or anything, what really separates you apart from the pack?
Absolutely, Ed. What separates me is I'm the only candidate that served as a police officer for 6 years. So I have the law enforcement background. I'm also the only candidate that built a real estate business from zero to a net worth of $10 million. So when you talk about having a broken system with law enforcement and broken streets, you need a law enforcement candidate. When you talk about a broken economy, you need to understand how money works. And you know what people want most? They want money in their pockets. They don't want money going back to the state to do what's right for the people. No, do what is right for the people means put money back in my pocket, give us some jobs, let us pay for our health and care and our education, our kids, our families. And you know what? Keep bread on the shelves. I saw it today on the news, baby formula. Come on, that's a
Yeah.
basic. Keep it on the shelves.
Well, and that's an interesting point too, because obviously we've had a lot of supply chain issues, and some of it I know is from various manufacturers, and it's simply for the fact that they are still getting a lot of their containers, be it bottles, cans, packaging, from overseas. Here in Wisconsin, we have a lot of talent. I mean, it's the people that I meet around here. It's amazing. The people out here are just phenomenal. And I do have to wonder, how is it that we can't do certain things like that? Where we can, I mean, out in the Green Bay area, I forget what the company's name is, but there's a toilet paper company there, which made me wonder at the beginning of this, pandemic, how exactly do you run out of toilet paper when you have a toilet paper manufacturer in your state? But what is it that we can do to kind of get that going? To get those businesses back here, to get, these jobs that are ready for the 21st century.
I think we need to come up with a balance. We need to come up with a balance of a budget that works for the state, but also gives incentive to business owners to hire people at a substantial wage that they can actually afford to pay their bills and have a little left over, so that you don't have both parents killing themselves working two jobs and having, daycare raise their kids, and having families torn apart because they don't know each other anymore because they're too burnt out with the schedules that they're trying to keep. So my goal as governor is to get back to the family units of, a work-life balance. The same thing with a school system that doesn't overwhelm their kids with homework at night to take away from family time. I like to get back to the times where all families are having dinner at the family table and discussion issues, because when you have a family unit involved, you have less chance of crime, less chance of having hardships that may put you in a spot where you don't want to be, or drug dependency or alcohol abuse, or these other avenues that people go to deal with the problems because they have nobody to talk to, or they feel that they have nobody to talk to.
How do you change something like that without, you need the buy-in from the people? And how do you change mindsets? How do you change culture? Because I think for some people it is a cultural issue. And when I say culture, I'm not even referring to it from a racial perspective. I think that, in cities you have various subcultures, whether it's, redneck culture, thug life, whatever, you can, there's some people put more value in other things, going out, being a hustler. People value that over an education. Some people value just being left alone, over working with, their kids later on at night because they're too tired. How do we change a culture like that?
Well, I think that we start with law enforcement. We need to target known crime areas and drug houses and send a message that there's a new sheriff in town and we're not going to put up with it. And we take what we get from those drug houses and we give it back to the community. And when, let's take, for example, the worst area in the world that you could think of, um, Milwaukee, we're gonna call it out because it's a high crime area right now.
Sure.
If you live there right now and you have kids, right, and you're hearing gunshots each and every day, and you get a governor like me that comes in there, and I work with the sheriff's department and the local police and the Milwaukee Police Department and with the mayor of the city, and I say, hey, we're going to clean this up. And for the first time, you walk out into your backyard with your kids, and you're not hearing gunshots. I mean, like you said, you heard gunshots. If
Hmm.
if that would have got cleaned up, you would have walked out and said, hey, something seems a little off, right?
Right.
And that would be a good thing. If they walked outside and said, you know what, my kid can walk down to the neighbor's house and play with the other kids. They could go play basketball on the courts and not have to worry about a drive-by. I think people of Milwaukee want that, but they just
Hmm.
don't know that it can happen because nobody's cared about them, except for every 4 years. But I'm going to care about them each and every day because they're God's children, and we
Right.
need to protect them, and we need to give them in their neighborhoods a safe neighborhood. That's why they pay taxes or they pay rent, or they deserve a quality of life just like everybody else.
Yeah, and I think that is important to differentiate because we can pick on high crime areas, take your precinct within the Milwaukee area. But the fact of the matter is, even in those high crime areas, the vast majority of people living there, these are people that want the best for their families, they want the best for their kids. They go to work, they want a brighter future. And unfortunately, it's a small group of people that are really screwing it up for everybody. Now, Samantha in here, she has a outstanding question. And I want to just kind of expand on it a wee bit because during the course of the last 2 years, during the lockdowns and everything, we have seen a exponential rise in substance abuse and alcohol abuse throughout the nation, actually, and I would even venture to say across the world. But at the same point, that rise in drug abuse, substance abuse has also now led to domestic violence, sexual assaults and abuses, and just overall depression and suicides. The numbers are staggering. I had an opportunity to look at them, like I believe it was last year, and what I saw was just the suicide hotlines were just through the roof. The mental health of a lot of people has been decimated. How do we go about helping people that have fallen into that trap? And I don't want to say through no fault of their own, because everybody's got to take responsibility for themselves. But at the same time, if they don't know where to get the resources, if we're not there to help those who have fallen on hard times like that, how do we deal with that in addition to all the massive drug runnings that we have here in the state? I know it's a lot to unpack. I'm gonna let you have at it.
That's okay. God only gives you what you can handle, right? I got big shoulders.
There we go.
So where we start with this is like what I was talking about. We target the drug houses, and we take that money and the resources from the criminals who got them hooked on the drugs in the first place, and we help. Well, first we got to shut down the drug houses, right? Because if we don't shut them off, people are going to still be getting drugs and fiending for drugs and whatnot. So my first act would be to shut them down. Then secondly, I like to take the money from those drug houses and give the people that were hooked on drugs a program to get off of drugs and get them into a program that teaches them skilled trades. Now, this really hits home for me a lot. I'm going to share something personal with you guys out there. I lost my dad at 59 years old to cirrhosis because he had to have one too many beers. And I wish that, there would have been a program to help him so that he could still be with me here today.
Right.
And also another thing that I'm going to share is I have a friend who is a vet, a war vet, and he was in a program in Milwaukee at the vet clinic, and he called me one night and said that he was going to end it all.
Hmm.
So we called the suicide hotline in Milwaukee, and we got all circuits are busy right now.
Right.
That is not going to happen on my watch. I'm sorry, but veterans in particular have my heart. They're the reason that we're free today, and they have to struggle every day with stuff that they didn't want to see overseas or wherever they served. And they deserve to have help. Not, I'm sorry, all circuits are busy right now.
Right.
I'm sorry, but we need to step it up. If we have money to piss away on this coronavirus and masks and all this other crap, and I'm sorry to just speak frankly, but it really irritates me when our vets and people that could be productive members of society are hooked on drugs because our law enforcement have their hands tied, not shutting down these criminals, and it really pisses me off. This is
Right.
why I say I'm one pissed off American. You hit the nail on the head. I am very passionate about cleaning up our streets, cleaning up mental health, drug rehab, and getting back to everybody being able to live a great life.
Yeah, and I think that's, when we look at everything that has unfolded, the tragedy and the scope of it, it is something that it affects the average person, and it also affects vets. And that has been actually a sore spot for quite some time. If you recall, just a few years ago, there was, I forget what they called that. There was a doctor up in the King Veteran Hospital, and I believe they called him the Candy Man. And the reason they called him that is because the guy would hand out narcotics like it was candy. And that's great. You're numbing the pain, but you're also making some of these folks addicted to it. Brock here has a question that I would very much like to get your input on. We've seen this happen quite a bit. Do you have a plan for human trafficking? If so, does it include a program to help the individual after they've been rescued? And I would say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I would believe that this has a lot to do with just the drug trafficking in general too, because both of them are lucrative businesses and they don't seem to be mutually exclusive of one another.
What most people don't understand is that this mask mandate, I think, has a lot to do with this human trafficking. And let me explain myself for those of you that don't know this. There is facial recognition software and cameras to look for people's faces that are being human trafficked or kidnapped. And with the
Mhm.
mask on, the cameras cannot pick up and identify these faces. So, as governor, I'm going to get rid of the mask restrictions, which is going to make it harder on these human traffickers in the first place. And with taking the handcuffs off of law enforcement and cracking down on human trafficking, just like drug dealing, but only with humans, is the same thing. I mean, it's destroying a human being's life at the expense of their life for somebody else's financial gain, and we will not tolerate it at all. So, yes, I am going to get help for human trafficking victims, counseling, getting them off of drugs because most of them are addicted to drugs. That's how
Right.
they keep them under their control. And then I'm going to have a work skill program for human trafficking people, for drug rehab people, for people that are in prison, all the way down to school. Because if we don't give people the skills, we're going to have what we have right now. I don't know when the last time is you try to hire a plumber or electrician or
Hmm.
try to build a house right now. For those
Oh
of you
yeah.
that don't know, my one of my houses flooded that I live in, and I'm being told it might be 18 months to 24 months until my house can be rebuilt. I think that's kind of ridiculous. I mean, where am I supposed to live? On the street? Um, so to answer your question, all this stuff is the reason I'm running for governor. Is I want to fix it. I'm a fixer. That's why I was a
Yeah.
police officer. I like to fix problems. I'm also a pastor because God tells us to go out there and save souls for Christ each and every day. And as governor, I believe that I can help save people's predicaments that they're in. I mean, problem solving comes with starting with yourself. If you're out there right now and you're saying to yourself, I don't like where I am today,
Hmm.
okay? Identify what you don't like. Is it I don't have the skill set to do a job? Is it I'm dependent on drugs or alcohol or cigarettes or other kind of addictions? And if you are, be truthful with yourself. Go talk to yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm going to tell myself the truth. I have a problem and I need help. Go talk with your pastors, talk with your best friend, admit that you have a problem, go seek help. And I know that there's not a lot of help out there from the government right now, but we can't depend on the government. That's the wrong narrative that has been spread for too long is depend on the government. Just Google what a socialist communist country looks like and ask yourself, do you really want to have America or Wisconsin be like that? And I hope the answer is no, because I don't want it to be that way. So I'm telling you, self reflect, find a pastor or a friend and talk to them about your issues and come up with a plan to work through them. Baby steps. Eat that elephant one bite at a time.
I think a lot of people when they look for, certain services, and I'm not a big, social services type of person. I'm just not. But I also recognize that as part of a civil society, we do have a fiduciary duty to take care of those who can't take care of themselves. So we create these social safety nets, and I think part of the problem with the social safety net is that it continues to be expanded over and over and over again. And of course, you get people that game the system. Obviously, that's a problem that needs to be reined in. But I think for people, like we were talking earlier regarding, someone that's trying to recover from alcohol and drugs, somebody who's trying to recover from, the horrors of human trafficking, somebody who's just in this deep depression. I don't necessarily know if it's government's responsibility, private, or can it be collaborative? I have to wonder if there's a way that, to make that collaborative in that sense. And what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts is it needs to be all hands on deck, because you probably
Mm,
heard somebody say you can't fix a problem until somebody identifies that they have a problem.
right.
That's semi true. And I say semi true because most people that are addicted to something aren't in the right mindset to make the right decisions. That's why you say, hey, look, that guy's on something.
Right.
So I think you need to have family and friends come around that individual, kind of like, you know what a chapter 51 was?
Was that
A
the
chapter
intervention?
Yeah, Chapter 51 was a law enforcement intervention that if two or more family or friends said, hey, this guy's having a problem, they could commit them into rehab for at least 30 days and be
Oh yeah.
evaluated by a medical professional. I would like
You
to
know,
see resources go for that, because if that was the case, I wouldn't have lost my dad at 59 years old.
right. Well, and I think that's definitely something a lot of communities could get involved with and on board with. Let me ask you this here, because this is another big issue, and it started under the Walker administration. Obviously, it's been an issue under this Evers administration, and I think it will be one going forward too. Foxconn, big issue there. I'm not sure what they were supposed to make there. Was it like screens or computer boards or whatever? Obviously, we have an issue right now. Anybody who's, looking for a new car, looking for a used car, you're seeing the prices on those just go right through the roof. Gaming systems, computers, you name it. I actually went online just the other day. I was looking for a PlayStation 5. I just wanted to see what the pricing on it was. And the best price I saw for a place that had it available was something like $900, where the MSRP on it should be about 400 or 500. So it's amazing what's happening because we are not self-sufficient as a country to have things like semiconductor chips. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is talking about wanting to do something about that. Elon Musk down in Texas is looking at Tesla doing something about that. As governor, how would you work with Foxconn to try to do something like that, as well as boost the numbers of employed people there within Foxconn and the Foxconn community?
Well, you brought up some good points, because I've been a big fan of DeSantis, governor of Florida, and Youngkin and what he did in his first few days in office. Those are two guys that I'm going to follow exactly what they did, and I'm going to have actions speak louder than words. To answer your question direct with Foxconn, I don't have an exact answer for that at this point. That would
Right.
be something that I'd have to have a discussion with Foxconn and my team once I'm in office to come up with, what could we do with that?
Certainly. All right. And I can appreciate that. Okay, so our last couple minutes here, I'm going to hand the floor to you, and I want you to kind of, again, recap us, well, who you are. Talk to us, this is your stone speech. Wait, what do we got here? Before we do that, every time Brock puts something up here, I always want to check it out too.
I love Brock. Brock's a great guy from the Freedom Fighters.
Can we address the issue with both government political parties driving a bad perception of freedom and patriot groups? It seems like they don't want us uniting together and using the constitutional rights to create change on either side. You want to take that one first?
I think that's a very tough question, because I don't think that it's everybody in the parties that are doing that. I think it's like everything. There's a few bad apples that want to create this segregation and make it seem like a mountain instead of a molehill. What I say to that is we stomp on these molehills and we move forward. I mean, that's what our country was founded on, was guys like me that are patriots that are fighting for freedom. And I know that there's a hell of a lot more people like us out there. And I think Brock is only talking about the 10% of the people that are screaming at the top of their lungs and trying to make themselves look like somebody when they're really not. There's a lot of people like that they just aggravate people and they make stuff up. And, you know, it's kind of like having a sliver in your finger. You know, it kind of stings for a little while, but once the sliver is gone, the sliver goes into the fire and you move on with life. And those kind of people, I have no time for.
Yeah. As I'm looking at this, the question here, it seems like, you know, they, man, whoever they is, we had this discussion earlier. It's like, I hate it when people say they, but they're trying to get me. Maybe they are. They don't want us uniting together. This is where, you know, for me, it's simply not really interested in what they want us to do. We need to do what we need to do as a people, as a free society. And if it's not us and not now, ultimately when and by who. But yes, sir. In our last few minutes, like I said, I'm gonna hand it over to you. Let you kind of do your thing. Have at it, sir.
Well, Ed, I'm going to use this time to talk about a huge event that I have coming up.
Oh, yes, sir.
March 19th in Ripon, Wisconsin, the birthplace and the birthday party for the Republican Party will be hosted by candidate for governor Adam Fischer. That's me. We're going to have a huge event out there, guys. And you can find tickets for that event at my website, which is there at the lower bottom of your screen. We're going to have a prayer ceremony at 2:00 at the little schoolhouse. And then at 2:30, we're going to have a huge Patriot parade, 5 miles long, with a couple hundred cars all decked out in patriotic gear. And there will be a prize for first place decorations all the way to the banquet hall, where there's going to be about 1,000 people to celebrate the Republican birthday party with speakers like Tim Rantham and the Freedom Fighters of Wisconsin, pro-life, NRA, and entertainment by country singer Blind Joe. And might I add, there's going to be a buffet with a shitload of food. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a birthday bash for all. Everybody's invited. So please go get your tickets for this event that you're not going to want to miss. And in summary, just to reiterate, what sets Fischer for governor apart is I am the only candidate that has law enforcement background and that has built my own real estate business from nothing to a net worth of $10 million, which we need for this economy. We need somebody who can dissect where we've gone wrong and get money back in the taxpayers' pockets and fix this broken system of law and order, economy, our school systems, our resources, our healthcare, our law enforcement. I mean, it seems like everything's broken right now because we've lost God and we've lost common sense. So I am the well-rounded governor Christian candidate. I am not just one-dimensional. I'm not looking at one problem. I have a list with my team of people, and we are dissecting what the major problems are all the way down to the minor problems, and we are making a list and coming up with solutions, which I think is different than our administrations have done. I mean, look at Biden, 47 years, and he can't fix the simplest of problems. So I don't care if people say, you're not a politician. I take that as a compliment. I am grassroots like everybody else. Some people may say, he doesn't have a lot of money. He had to take out a loan to run for governor. That's true. Okay. I'm not the establishment. I don't have millions of dollars that I can just self-fund my campaign. So if you do believe in my message, I could use some donations so that we can move Wisconsin forward together for freedom. Again, I am Adam Fischer, and I'm asking for your support and your prayers. And God bless everybody out there. Thanks for having me on the show, Ed.
No, thank you very much for coming on. I really appreciate the conversation. And like I said, we got your link right there and in the description of the show. And when we rebroadcast this on all the favorite podcast apps, we will have that link over there. And I would add this too, um, for everybody out there, obviously you got a lot to consider. We got a lot of candidates out there. If Adam is your guy, take a look at that website. Check it out. If this is somebody you want to donate to, by all means, help them out. All these candidates are going to need all the help they can get, whether it be raising funds, volunteering, everything out there. So make sure you guys check them out. Adam, thank you very much for giving me your time. I really appreciate it, sir.
God bless you all.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.
All right, that was Adam Fischer. As you see the website right down there, Adam Fischer for Governor 2022. So check out the website if you're interested. You know, we got a lot of people out there. There's a lot of talent. And I know I have, I can critique any number of folks, and I will going forward. I can make a case for every one of them folks too, and I will going forward from the top on down. But one of the things, the goals that I want to do with this format here is to have the candidates on, to let them speak, have some conversations about the issues that are going on here in the Milwaukee area and around the state, and get a feel for that, for you guys to be able to discern, listen, learn, and hopefully interact there in the chat room. So I want to thank you guys all for joining in here tonight. I really appreciate you guys being there. Like I say, you'll be able to check out everything here on our website. We'll be having it on all the podcast formats on Spreaker, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that other good stuff. And as always, remember, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys a little later on. Have a good one.